Mikel Thomas, what's your revolution?
To be able to awaken the champion within us all. Because if you realize that you're a winner, I reap your fruits.
Welcome to the What's Your Revolution show, a show for men and the people who love them, where we discuss how men can find and embrace the revolution within themselves, where people can find and embrace the revolution within themselves. I'm your host, Dr. Charles Corporal. What's good, revolutionaries? As we always say, I hope that you are doing well and that you are finding your way, and that you have answered what we think is the most thought-provoking question of your life. What's your revolution? It's been a journey through this year, and I have been fortunate, as I always say, to meet some of the most fascinating people. And God has blessed me. God has blessed me to put me in spaces to meet some of the thought leaders, some of the provincial leaders of our time. And today's show is, as I say, oftentimes is an ordinary show because that's what happened. Before the airing of the show, I was actually accepted into Black Venture Institute, hosted by Black VC. I want to give a shout out to all the good folks at Black VC who are doing amazing things, who are basically building a brand that gives people that look like me and my guests today the opportunities to learn how to be better venture capitalists, how to even move into the space. And as you know, I've talked at length about my joy about investing into women and entrepreneurs of color. It is my passion, it is my joy, and that's actually what I do daily. Being able to meet, think, source, coach, lead, and then ultimately invest in some of the most prolific minds in entrepreneurship in the world. And so, as I was sitting in this course by Black VC, this astute brother came on the screen to introduce himself, and as soon as he opened his mouth, I was like, "Yo, I got to get this brother on the show, right?" And his name is Mikel, because he made sure, he's like, my name is Mikel, not Michael. Mikel Thomas, Olympian, 3-time Olympian from Trinidad and Tobago. Now, you will hear the inflection of his accent once he begins to speak, but this brother is doing amazing things all across various sectors, whether it be entrepreneurship, investment, leadership. And so I want to welcome to the show, as I said, 3-time Olympian. As you know, this is 2024 and the Olympics are in Paris. Fortunately, revolutionaries, I will be there this year. So I'm super excited about this, but I'm also more super excited to talk about somebody who's actually competed, one of the greatest athletes in the world. So Mikel, welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
Even better now after that amazing introduction. Sheesh. I need to record it and just have it play in my head every other day. But blessed to be here, man. Blessed to be here.
I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate it. I mean, it's not every day that you get to, have a conversation with a 1-time Olympian, but 3-time Olympian. I want to jump in right there because I don't want to bury the lead, but there's a large swath of things I want to talk to you about. But let's just jump in right there. What does it take to become an Olympian, one of the greatest athletes that we have ever seen, to be able to go and compete for your country against other countries in the world?
I don't take that lightly.
Mm-hmm.
I've always viewed it as I have the honor of representing the hopes and aspirations of a people, culture, and a nation.
Yeah.
So for many, I might be the first time that you may ever meet somebody from the beautiful Twin Islands of Trinidad and Tobago. So I take that as an honor and a privilege to make that introduction to my homeland. So that is one, just being Trinbagonian, and then being an ambassador of that, where sport has the honor of being one of the few things to unify peoples across cultures and languages. Yes. I've been in foreign countries and cracked a beer open with someone I have no idea, but because we both like football on the TV, cheers. Sport, music, and food can do that. And
Yes.
sport is the only thing that can bring all three of them together. Unless a good cookout. That's always another one.
It's summertime, baby. There's nothing wrong with a good cookout.
Always. But that is the thing where if you think about it, there's only about, I think the number is 300,000 Olympians ever
Mm.
in the world, period. And I have the honor of being one where apparently we're like an endangered species. You wouldn't really see us walking around world on a regular basis. But you have a hard enough chance of being one in X to be an Olympian. Whatever that number is, you have a 33% chance of doing it again. And then it drops again to 33% of that 33% to even doing it. So it's actually harder to make more than one Olympics than it is to make an original Olympics. And I have been blessed to technically qualify for 4. The last one, in full transparency, I had a vaccine reaction, so I wasn't able to attend.
Oh,
But I'm actually the first person from the Caribbean to qualify for both the winter and the summer games.
man, listen
So
to this.
it's a blessing, but it wasn't
Yeah.
about me. It's just to be an example, because there's going to be some youth where I was able to enter this because of representation, seeing someone like Otto Boulder in 96 here in Atlanta. I didn't even know you could leave the island. And I'm seeing someone who looks like me, sounds like me, compete against the best in the world. And so now I get to be a part of that same. So hopefully someone can see something that, you know what, I can do better. Because we stand on shoulders of giants, so it's my time that somebody stands on mine.
Yeah. Brother, that's amazing to just think about that. The percentages that you just said, how hard it is, one, like to be an Olympian, just a single time, to just make the games.
Mm-hmm.
And then Revolutionaries, you heard what he said. He made it 2 more times, and then in 2 different Olympiads, a winter and a summer Olympics. Talk about that. Let's drive down a little further.
Yeah,
Talk
man.
about that. Like, how do you go from being in the summer games? He's a track athlete. He's a 110-meter hurdler. Think about that, right? The skill set that it takes to run as fast as you can, and then all of a sudden jump over a bar. Right? I used to run hurdles. Look, look. Let me compare myself to you, right? I used to run hurdles in junior high school, right? You know what I'm saying? On the B team. So on the B team, this brother ran 110-meter hurdles in the Olympics. Talk about that, and then you did the bobsled, if I'm correct, in the Winter Olympics. I almost feel like, wait, how do you go from that? But you're an athlete, one.
Yeah.
So talk about that experience of being in the Summer Olympics, running the 110-meter hurdles, and then all of a sudden transitioning to a Winter Olympic sport, and the mindset that has to happen from that shift.
Yeah, I mean, first I have to give it's all God. That is one. Because to me, being able to compete in the hurdles, and it'll make sense in a bit, has always been like my song, my testimony. Because if I could sing, I would sing, but I can't sing, so I could run. So that's how I express my gift. And the reason why I say it's that, because everything that I'm not, God is. And He's allowed me to clear obstacles for a living. That is not a testimony. So yes, I literally ran full steam into obstacles. I did that in a couple of ways in life. I also was a firefighter. We can talk about the randomness in my life. But, I stand a strong 5'8" in a 6-foot dominated event. So on paper, I wasn't even recruited in college for this event. And the first year that I actually focused on the hurdles is the first year I actually qualified for the Olympics.
Oh, wow.
So it's not my story, it's God's. Really and truly. So to be able to also say that even as the most unlikely person, that my name is in the top 100 to have ever competed in my respected event, and I happen to also have the honor of being the current and still national record holder for Trinidad and Tobago. When I say it out loud, it feels like I'm talking about somebody else. But in the same sense, that's a part of who I've been able to be. And because of, I would say, God has used this really as a testimony, again, because it wasn't really about what I did, but who I became in the process.
Yeah.
I may no longer be an athlete, but I'm still a champion.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I want other people to glean off
Mm.
of my journey at any point is no matter the arena that you're in, you could still be a champion in that, right? But it comes with a
Yeah.
recognitions of the hurdles that you've cleared. So it's almost like a
Mm.
retroactive perspective
Yeah.
because you're not a hurdler unless you finish the race.
Oof. Come on,
You have to finish.
you can't be dropping goals so early,
Dramatic
so
pause. I
early.
needed the dramatic pause, you know, but
Yeah.
you can't do that. But like it prepared me to also run into burning buildings when I was a firefighter.
Yeah.
You know, like I might have a few screws different in me. The main thing is that I've seen God move in my life. So when he says go, I go. And so it might
Mm.
look like you have a level of courage or how can you just move to this country and fundraise yourself to get your master's degree? Also one of the random things I've done in my life. Raised $30,000 in 6 weeks to fund my master's education.
Wow.
You know, like what prepares you for those moments is the simple small yeses. And the first one that started for me was being a knucklehead kid running in the streets in Brooklyn and being caught by my dean, and he gave me an option. So you had track practice or detention. And I think it's one of those pivotal
Mm.
moments where you lay a line in the sand is like what you're going to choose. And for me, I think I chose the better of that day. So you do the same.
Yeah. Yeah. No, look, we talk about choice points so much here on the show, Miguel. You know, we have these 5 tenets of how to fulfill your revolution once you answer it. And
Mm,
it's interesting that we will be presented with choices.
mm,
And to be revolutionary in your life, Mikhail, as you have been, because as you said, that moment for you when you were given a choice to go to detention and be that knucklehead kid, or could I do something? And maybe, you're not thinking as a knucklehead kid, like you're thinking, I don't want to I'm not going to go to detention. I can just go play. Track is play.
mm.
But if God is moving in our lives, God is presenting us with that opportunity, and play at that point in time is like, I'm going to go play. But what did it then do? What did
Mhm.
it then do? It presented a hurdle for you, ironically. And that hurdle, that was that hurdle that you actually were able to successfully jump at the time, is that it propelled you to a different story. In the green room, we talked about this, is that we are typically one decision away from a better life. The,
Yeah.
the the verbiage is we one decision away from a different life, but we want to make sure that we're making a decision that leads us to a better life. And in that moment, you made a decision to move into a space where you were going to then run into obstacles at full steam. It still leads me back to that question, that you moved from being a champion hurdler to a bobsledder. And,
Mm.
my revolutioners are still going to want to know, like, what was that like? Being a champion hurler and then
Yeah.
switching gears, switch. You got to be in the cold. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
boy.
saying? You go from a tropical climate into the cold. What's that
Yeah,
like?
boy. I don't even know why I was thinking at the time, but it was honestly, so I qualified for Beijing 2008, London in 12, Rio in 16. Um, for 2020, of course, we all got rocked by the pandemic, so it got
Mhm.
pushed back a year. At the time, I was getting my master's degree, and it was tough training, coaching myself, and going a full-time master's program in Switzerland, trying to learn foreign language, all of that.
Oh,
So
wow.
oui, je comprends le français. I was on the French side.
Jean
Oui,
Paul.
oui. So like all of those different things happening at the same time. So, strangely enough, like the pandemic was a little bit of a blessing for me because it
Mm.
was an opportunity to refresh. Because I felt like I was trying to juggle a lot. To give you an example of what that looks like. Meanwhile, I have also made two games while being full time in a profession.
Mm.
So you're talking about waking up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to have a 6 o'clock session before 8 o'clock class. Lunchtime, you're doing a session. You're going back to work or class. And then in the evening, you're trying to get a big block of 3 to 4 hours in. Then whatever obligations of work, you still have to feed and wash yourself and get 8 hours of rest. Try to repeat it again. I already hit like 27 hours. So it's like, where? And then you're doing that. It takes about 9 months to prepare for 12-second race. So it's like, how? So even though the pandemic hit, Tokyo, that attempt was really hard. There
Yeah.
was so much happening. I wasn't able to qualify, but my cup was already full. I felt like I
Mm.
didn't necessarily have anything else to prove, but
Yeah.
it was something that I needed to be faithful because God said, I need to work on you. And so it was something that he knew that it was an area that I would be obedient because I've proven
Yeah.
that muscle in. So even though I promise you, I knew in my heart and spirit I wasn't going to make, but I had to fully commit. And my last race, you can imagine bandages on my Achilles because they were about to pop.
Oh,
I feel in age like if I'm 40 years old running with some kids, and I was willing to just give everything in that last race, regardless of the results. In fact, there was a
right.
young man from Trinidad. I was actually trying to pull him to a qualification time because I knew he had a better chance than me. So I was like,
Mm.
just catch me if you can and then run past me. But it was like, I still have photos to this day. I want to hear from God, job well done. And one
Mm.
thing I know with the talent he gave me athletically, I poured that cup out, man.
Yeah.
I gave it everything I possibly could in that moment that I was very satisfied that even though I did not make Tokyo, that I was faithful to the call.
Yeah.
And now I get to live the rest of my life. Again, I'm working in corporate America. I have a little bit of more change now. So I'm on vacation, liking myself in Italy. And I'm seeing that there are people trying to get our bobsled team up and running. And so one of the biggest things that separates bobsled from a bunch of different other sports is no juniors in bobsled.
Mm.
Again, some schools have to be missing because you're jumping into a tin can, moving at 80 miles an hour, fighting G6 forces. That is not for everybody.
Not for
And
everybody. It
so
ain't for corporate, I'll tell you that.
it's not, but so it's like there was a need to kind of just bring awareness to some people who are attempting to make history. It was 20 years since Trinidad and Tobago was present in the Winter Olympics. And so we finally had a bobsled cost like 60 grand. This is not no poor man sport. So we had, and then the skill that's necessary to imagine driving on ice. If you've lived in cold places, you realize not everybody can do that. If it's snow right now in Atlanta, Atlanta can't drive in the snow. So
Well, the,
it's
the
hard.
Atlanteans have a hard time driving anywhere.
It's hard. So like there's a level of literally skill in order to control and maneuver a bobsleigh. So there was individuals building a team, and I honestly was just trying to help bring attention to it, utilizing my platform. Helping because there's a lot of converts, no matter the team, except for some of the Europeans, where even the US team is made up of speed and power athletes. So you'll get a lot of football or soccer or rugby or different type of power-based athletes who will then convert into bobsleigh because the most of it is push, put your head down and push. I think football can do that pretty well. Sprinters can do that pretty
Right.
well. Just head down and push. And so I was just trying to help them get the awareness out, help them do certain things. Went to one of the camps, did a couple of things. Running on ice is very different than running on a track, completely different, and end up helping, be a part of the team. And so that was one of those things where, wow, it's like, this is possible. It was cool. Probably got caught up with the history that I was making, so man was feeling kind of nice. But the main thing was I was part of diaspora. We left Trinidad when I was young. We immigrated to New York City. I wanted other people to be aware that you could still connect back home. You could still be a something.
Yes.
And there are other options where if track and field is not for you, if football is not for you, maybe bobsled is the nice
Maybe
mix for
bobsled.
you. Like I'm just saying because there's something so beautiful about seeing your flag raise and hearing the
Yes.
national anthem.
Hmm.
I don't care where you're from, but that hits you in a different
It,
part of your being. Yeah. So
I totally agree with that.
that's what it was for. It was for my cup is full. Now who can I pour into? And
Mm.
by a little spillage, it ended up being like, okay, I'm the vet. I can help the team. I can qualify with them. And I ended up going. But unfortunately, literally the week of my flight to Beijing, because I'll have been one of 4 people in the world to start my career in Beijing and end it in Beijing. It never
Wow.
happens. I had a vaccine reaction, case of pericarditis,
Oh,
inflammation all over. And
really?
so we had to make a last minute decision to deal with it here domestically in the US versus taking an issue to China. And
Right.
so I gave up the spot. And the young men that went out there, they did their very best and made our nation proud.
Hmm. Mikel, that's a beautiful story. If you think about pride,
Mm,
that's what I feel the symbolism of that story is pride. Um, and that when you can be a beacon of light and hope for something greater, I think we lose some of that here in the States. Because there's there's a line swath of people who can become Olympians and across sports. Trinidad and Tobago is it's a smaller country, and to fight and play and represent for your country feels a bit, and I'm not taking anything away from the American spirit, but it feels like it's just a bit more when your country is smaller, you
mm.
know, instead of millions and millions and millions, 385 million people, the population probably of Trinidad and Tobago is probably less than 10 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
1.5 last time I checked.
1.5 million. Imagine that. 1.5, like the percentage of you and your teammates of the entire population making the Olympiad. And to have a country rooting for you, loving on you. And to say that my pride in this flag and this country means so much for me that I'm going to push my body and my mind to levels that I've never done. Simply, yeah. Yes, this can be a selfish act, but I don't hear that. I don't hear a selfish act. I hear a selfless act where my ability, my God-given ability has given me the opportunity to represent my country. And that is a beautiful thing. That inside of itself, and for my revolutionaries who are watching on our YouTube channel, when you look back, you get to see, right, the memorialization of Mikel as the Olympian. There aren't many people that are going to have a backdrop behind them, right? A backdrop, you know, behind them that shows their Olympic opportunities and the Olympic trials and trials that they go through to get to that point in life. So I want to thank you, one, and I am in awe and reverence of your abilities to move through this space and excel. The one thing that I've heard through your journey, and this kind of takes me away from my original questioning, is that, but it has been woven through this entire conversation, is your relationship with God.
Mm.
And that is, and many of my listeners have strong faith. Strong faith. Talk about that for me. What does your faith do for you now, in the past, and how does it move you as you walk in the future?
In the past, I would say it's something that was ingrained. I come from the grandmother's age
Mm,
where I am here by the blessings and the prayers of those that go before me.
mm,
You understand? And there's a huge acknowledgement of that. The same way I can say I stand on shoulders of giants and I pray to other people to stand on mine. I also recognize that I'm here by my grandmother's great grandmother's prayers.
mm,
People who came over from West Africa into called Trinidad and Tobago home. You know, so that in itself is also a journey where it's something that's offered to you, and then it's something that you own. And that's where I'm at now, where maybe I lost where it was. I'll be fully honest. In the world of the sport, especially in an individual sport like track and field, it's pretty clear cut. You could run a time in LA and somebody could run a time in London, and it's apples to apples. Yeah, brother run sub 10, he's fast, bro. You run 9.9, he's faster. It's just like, it's that clear.
Mm.
But when you know that you have something in you, I remember for years after first games I qualified for, I was a junior at the University of Kentucky. I thought that, my senior year, it would be nothing. What's the NCAA? I just ran in the Olympics out my face. But I was struck with injuries. Injuries. Like what I decided to put as my identity wasn't worth it anymore. Because
Mm.
now, big time athlete, you're redshirted, you can't compete. Now, who are you? I had relationships that I placed a lot of who I was. Same thing, that relationship broke up. Like, who do you say you are? And then when everything is kind of stripped away, you realize it's just you and God. And
Mm.
so being in that position where I remember even fast forward to like 2012, where I'm training, coaching myself and coaching at a junior college in the middle of Kansas, literally preparing for an Olympic Games on a farm running hills, just looking up at the stars and realizing it's just me and God. And I fully became a student of the sport because I was accountable
Mm.
for someone else and my own career. But I felt nothing but the grace for the season. You can't tell me it's not God. And so I have felt the hands-on experience of God. I've been in the wilderness. I've been in the mountaintop. I've been in the valley, that I know it's real for myself. I know
Mm.
God is real for myself. Like
Yes.
I can
Yes.
literally tell you the gospel of Mikel. Like that's something that I don't think we live off of the biases and stories of other people, good or bad. We don't take enough accountability to recognize and write down our own. And so
Mm.
sometimes I literally have a whole stack of journals that I've written, and you need to reflect back to who you was in 2015, but
Mm.
also who God was in 2015. What were those prayers? What do I have literally a book of closed prayers where it's just like
Mm.
that didn't work, that didn't work, that didn't work. And like you said, to the pivotal moments, like where would you be if they did? Were you
Yeah.
ready for what you were asking for? Like these are also pieces of the puzzle that I don't think we take into acknowledgement. So a relationship, me man, is something that I've experienced God for myself.
Yeah.
And I think as you get a little bit older and further, you sometimes get distracted. You sometimes get pulled left and right. And like we were talking about, is your job is to stay back to something
Yes.
that was here before you and will be here after you. So you might as well make it here with you. And that's the spirit.
Man, that is beautiful. I want to bring in what we talked about just for a moment, what we talked about in the green room when I asked you how you were doing. You were like, "I'm steering the plane,"
Mm.
and you said that God was the wind,
Yeah.
right? God was the wind, and you were steering the plane. And to even tie this even more into what you're saying is that when you're steering the plane and you want to go on the course that you have been set,
Mm-hmm.
there will be shears, there will be turbulence. Stay with me. Stay with me. There will be
Turbulence.
there will be turbulence, but if both hands are on the wheel and God is the wind, from what I understand, is that we can stay that course.
Mm-hmm.
Because the analogy that I gave in the green room is that if we get off course just a little bit to the left or to the right, we can be miles and miles and miles, hundreds of miles away from our even if we are an inch, 2 inches, right, feet away from that course. We can end up at a different place. And so it is really, really interesting is that we must hold our hands on that wheel steadily. And when the shear comes, when the wind drift comes, when the turbulence comes, when the storms come, if we're holding mightily on to the steering wheel, being fueled by whatever God that you believe in, then you can move forward to the goals that you have set for yourself. And that is a very interesting thing when you think about that faith.
Mm.
And I don't talk about that much on the show. I allow people to be who they are, but in times like this, I think we have to understand faith will move us through. The faith to hold on to the steering wheel, to the yoke, as they call it on the airplane, to hold
Couldn't
on
say
to
enough.
that. Yeah, the yoke. And to move us back when we have challenges in our life. Felicia Hatcher, who is the CEO of Black Ambition, Pharrell's venture capital fund, talks about this, talks about figuring out those things that are interrupting you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that, I would imagine that being able to have a backdrop that looks like yours, you were able to mitigate the interruptions that were coming into your life. To be an Olympian, to be one of the premier athletes in the world, you must, one, identify your interruptions and then figure out how to overcome them. So I'm going to ask this, like, what were some of the interruptions that you faced and how did you overcome them to move into being a champion? Because I think that my revolutionaries want to know that we are distracted all the time. I got distractions. My phone is going crazy right now with distractions.
Yeah.
How does an Olympian move through interruptions so you can stay focused?
It's an Olympian, a CEO, a founder, a leader. It doesn't matter what the title may be, to be exceptional in a particular field. It starts with clarity. That is first and foremost. If you got to keep the main thing. I think that's one of the biggest distraction. Everybody's talking about passive income, or like there's no such thing as passive income. Income is an exchange of value, goods and services. If you ain't bringing value, goods or service, there's nothing light about it.
True.
So there is always the distraction of something else. There's the internal distraction between who I say I am versus what I'm experiencing. So levels of cognitive dissonance, imposter syndrome, when you have to, again, remove the biases of other people that was placed on you, that you're this, that you're that, versus who you say I am is, which is a powerful name that in itself invokes the name of God. No matter what you subscribe, I am enters the room.
Yes.
But it comes at a cost. I don't think everybody's willing to pay it. If I told you I have to, one, move every 2 years or every year, be below the poverty line, in fact, be homeless for a period of time, fight embezzlement in your homeland, not be able to have a sustainable relationship because 9 months out of the year you're on the road. And on top of that, just delay everything else socially for about 15 years. Who's signing up for whatever X might be? Right? I want to be able to go to vacations whenever I want, make 6 figures, and only work 2 hours a day if I need to. That's not the reality of the situation. You know, I live by a series of quotes, and there's a lot of them that stands out to me. And like this one is bubbling. It's just like hard men make strong good times, and good times make weak men, and weak men make hard times. And it's a repetitive cycle. And so if you are in hard times, are you the weak person? Don't take it as an insult. If it's bubbling up in you as an insult, check your own pride. If it's bubbling up in you right now as an insult, check your own ego. Pride is not a bad thing, neither is ego. Ego is how you view yourself. That means you have a cognitive dissonance against how you view yourself. That's an opportunity to change. If your pride is views, that means you have a view of oneself, or you're strongly believing in something that you're not seeing in an external force, or you're not feeling that is being recognized. Then how do you get that in alignment? I think sometimes when people feel these things, they think that, oh, it's just the external. It's always internal first. It's always internal first. But who's willing to pay the cost? Like, that's the thing I feel like we've lost a little bit of sight from, is what am I willing, or more so, whom am I willing to become in order to achieve the things that I'm willing to? And like I mentioned to you before, there's only about 300,000 Olympians ever. Since the 1800s, 1890s, the first Olympics, ever. Right? And I'm one of them. I take up 3 spots on the list. You understand? Like that's glory. That's three spots. So you think I have to do what the rest of the billions of people have done, or what the 1% did?
What the 1% is.
Is what life you want to live? You have to recognize it's not the same path.
Yeah. And it's recognized, like you said, you envision a goal, you envision this version of yourself. And one of the things that we say here is that you have to revolt and evolve. You know, I know the revolutionary version of myself that I want to be. There are behaviors that I need to let go of. And those behaviors that I need to let go of, I then need to imbibe and incorporate and ingrain and instill new behaviors that allow me to move closer to that revolutionary version of myself. That's the thing. And to move past the interruptions. And, you know, fantasy and passion and there's a number of things that can distract us that become interruptions to our life. It's how do we mitigate those, you know, those interruptions that will allow us to move into the space, you know, where we might be able to raise the proverbial flag that, you know, for our country or for our beliefs or for whatever that flag may actually represent. We must overcome our interactions. You've been able to move your Olympic experience into the corporate world. What do you take? What has been taken from your Olympic experience that is making you successful in the corporate world?
Good question. Thank you. I almost come back that because like, am I successful? Yeah, like we have to like define what success means. But what has allowed me to at least pivot or transition? More so transition. I feel like life has a stage of transitions. Is understanding that the character of the man has already been refined. The expression of the man is what changes. So who I was as an Olympian is the same person that I am now. But my resiliency, my collaboration, my coachability has been documented. It's kind of like a living resume for the last 15 years. And what sport does is it keeps score. Life has a different type of score. Like, if I go to a premier event, you could see how I did. Again, X's and O's. What's success in the real world? Is it the wife, the kid, the 2.5 kids and a white picket house fence? Like, that's why I say we have to sometimes define what success is, or do we adopt the biases of family, friends, and society? Or do you get the actual time to take for yourself to define what success is? To me, success is the pursuit and progression of a worthy goal. Am I one, having the clarity to pursue a worthy goal? And am I making progress in that? Then I am deeming myself to be successful.
Right.
So, am I successful in corporate America? Yeah, I can't ever think about it that way. You know, there's a goal, there's things. Yeah, I'm about to help graduate the first inaugural inclusive cohort ever that we did as an organization with 21, you know, underrepresented fintechs here in North America. Yeah, I've been able to be a part of so many cool things, but I don't feel like I'm done yet.
Yeah.
I honestly tell myself all the time that everything that I've done, from running into burning buildings to representing a nation, was only practice. I truly believe that with like my full conviction that God is only preparing me for something greater.
Yeah.
Because everything that I've experienced with those little jumps allowed me to take bigger leaps. So I can't wait to see what's about to happen. Calibrating that flight mechanism myself, knowing that if you're already in motion, it's easy for God to direct you. You're not just going to jump out of a plane and be like, I want to go somewhere else. That don't make no kind of sense. But depending on how big of a change, like you can't just swing a big plane, especially if you're supposed to take people with you or you're having a bigger impact. Like, follow the analogy here. If you have a little pea shooter paper plane, it can move, but it can't take anybody with it. If you have a 747, how easy is it to move something like that? That's why I can't judge people who have families that they're accountable to that can't make certain pivots as quickly as other people. but it doesn't mean you can't. That's the thing. It just may take a little bit more time. It just may
Right.
take a little bit more strategy as how you move or when you move. And you might need a little bit more wind beneath you to help get you in that direction. So that's where I'm at, to where I'm at a position where I still have a level of nimbleness. I don't have a family of my own yet. But in order for them to come, I know I have to get my house in order.
Yeah.
And before I think about just the money and the things, because I truly believe if you are passionate about something, you will bear fruit in it and you will be successful. Again, I've tested that theory long enough. But I want to also make sure that the principles that have made me successful are continuing to be there, so that others that are supposed to be a part of the future journey, knowing that there's a call that's greater than what I've done before, that I'm in a position to now take others with me.
Right.
And so that's the transition I'm preparing for. Is your life scalable? That's what I'm asking.
Is your life scalable? I love that. I love that, because if you look at your life,
Mm-hmm.
let's go all the way back to that decision you made on the playground. You want to go to detention or you want to go to track practice?
Mm-hmm.
Is your life scalable? And you think about the scale that Mikel Thomas, Olympian, has gone through, right? You think about that scaling of your life, and what are the planks that you were able to step on, and what are the planks that you're actually creating that you can even step further on.
Mm-hmm.
Go back. You are one decision away from a better life. But what are the things that you got to put in place that will enable you to make the decision? What are the
Mm-hmm.
things that you have to cut out, the interruptions that you have to cut out, so when the decision point comes, you can make the best decision?
100%.
Yeah.
And
I
then on
just, I
top of
just,
that
I, go ahead.
it's the notion, not just scalable in the direction of self, but also scalable in the direction of width. So that decision that I made only affected me. The future decisions that I make are going to affect others.
Right.
So how am I positioning myself to where the next decision is not just the best decision part of me, but for those that will also be impacted?
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
feel the call is. It's like everybody has this prayer of God, expand my territory, but don't know what the cost is in order to do so. But me and God have been practicing. You understand? And that's the thing, is that we don't give enough credit retrospectively to the hurdles that we've cleared. We have been practicing. So you want to be disciplined? You want this? Here's the
Let's
result.
practice discipline.
You want to be obedient? Here's the result. You want to be moldable? Here's the result. You want to be coachable? Here's the result. Learn how to collaborate? Here's the result. I need you to be multi-ethnic and infused and able to live anywhere in the world, because I feel like at one point I might need to pick you up and drop you somewhere else.
Yeah.
Here's the practice. So I don't know what's to come fully, but man, I feel ready. But having the tools that allows another, I can make the decision for myself. But
Yeah.
do I have things in place to help other people fish for themselves?
Tell that story. I want to close out just on this, because you've dropped it a couple of times. You've dropped it a couple times. You were a fireman.
Oh yeah, that
You
part.
were, so I would be remiss, as we say here, like, you were a fireman. What's that like? Like,
Yeah,
how does
man.
this encapsulate all the things that you've done? Olympian, fintech investor, working with athletes and youth. All of a sudden, this is what I'm gonna go be a fire. God dropped you into the firehouse one day. What's that like?
Yeah. I grew up in New York City when my family immigrated around 9/11. I come from
Mm,
a line of servicemen and women. I've seen, the benefit of service leadership. That same coach that gave me an option was a father figure to me, and
mm,
told me that you could be a product of your environment, of one of expectations. Growing up in Brooklyn, New York, you understand, in the 90s, the real Brooklyn, New York, not this version that's there now, but like East New York, Brooklyn, New York. And I'm traveling to Pocatello, Idaho for a competition, seeing how the other side lives
right.
as a 14, 13-year-old. Imagine what that's instilling in my mind. And so that's one of the things where firefighting was service to me. It was an opportunity for me to be willing to not just say it, but be about it. Because it's a difference to say, yeah, I got your back versus like my life is on the line in order to have your back.
Mm.
And I don't know you from Jim. Like I don't know you from anyone. To walk into corporate likes to say, we have a fire drill. That is nothing. Walk into a scene and someone is screaming at the top of their lungs and running towards you with
Mm.
their infant and remain calm while simultaneously identify where the main issue is and what's the priority for you to address. I could handle a corporate fire drill. That is nothing. This is a thing. It's like I don't think we understand the need for diversity because of our experiences, but I think we don't always give credit to the diversity of our experiences.
Yeah.
And that was what firefighting gave me. But I'll also be honest with you. Part of me did it out of an insecure place. And I say this
Talk about that.
because sometimes we don't give enough credit because we don't know ourselves enough. People, know thyself. You have to know yourself because of the instability of sport. Again, up and down roller coaster that not everybody sees. I've been on cover of magazines for winning medals, and I've been on the back of newspapers for failing because I finished fourth. Tell me when was fourth place a failure? That's what the identity of sport can
Right.
literally
Right.
wrap you in.
Mm.
So it's very unstable when you're in it. And so firefighting is probably one of the last public services out there with a pension. It's something where you just
Mm.
stay the course. You spend your 4 years, you'll make sergeant. At 7, you'll make lieutenant. At 10, you'll do chief. Like, just don't mess it up. It's one of those type of things. So part of me was so tired because people don't understand. Yes, those things are here now, but when you're in it, the gap between hurts. It hurt.
Mm.
It's a
Yeah.
heavy load. My best games was my first games because I had no expectations. Every other one after that, I'm now a vet. I'm now expected. And that wasn't my expectations. That was placed upon me.
Right.
People don't understand also the cost of it's, I I battle with saying it, but I'll accept it. The cost of greatness. I was able to do something great. By the name of God, I was able to do something great. Only because great is the consistency over time of something good.
Yeah. Oh, I love
So
that.
that's how I know I was able to do something great. Because time is the reveal of all truths, and over time, I produced X. That is great. Accept it.
Mm.
Working on even my own cognitive dissonance and my own limiting
Yeah.
beliefs right in front of you. It's what you speak over yourself. But firefighting was a beautiful test for me to be about it. Brother, I remember being a rookie. The reward for good work in firefighting and public service is more work. It put me in one of the busiest stations in America because I won all the awards of most physical, all this stuff because I could do the work. So what does that mean? You go to a station where you get 30 minutes of sleep a night
Mm.
because you're running. Like these are things that people don't understand. But I also had to be honest with myself. I was hiding a gift. I knew I had a set of other skills that weren't fully being manifested, though my character was being refined. I was the only person benefiting. I had something that I knew I had to give back out to people, but there was an assessment that I had to do it myself. And one, being honest that you were mostly motivated by fear. And that's
Yeah.
why you're here. And fear is a temporary motivation.
It is a
It
mind
cannot
killer.
it cannot be sustained. It's a
It
great
simply literally
spark,
will disintegrate
but
you from the inside out. You must face it and learn to control it. Fear.
it cannot maintain. It cannot sustain. And so I had to assess, well, what is it that you're really asking me to do? And I truly believe what you are most affected by, most angered by, always have an opinion towards is because you are the person supposed to fix it. And so when I was finally willing to say like, okay, I'm going to be a part of the decision because I can't judge a leader for making a decision if I've never been in that person's shoes. So how do I become that leader? And so it was a decision of, well, I need a new network and I need new information. because I don't know how they're going through and assessing these type of things. I think they're making shit decisions. But how do I prepare myself that if I was that person today, that I will make better? I recognize the gap. I don't have the knowledge, nor do I have the people who could talk on my behalf and put me in the room. Okay, so what do I need to do? I probably need to go back to school. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Most master's programs, most MBA programs, you're paying for a network. You pay to join the club.
Right.
You pay
Right.
for a refinement of information. That is what you really, if you're not looking for that, don't go to get the master's program. Just save yourself the money. But in that, I dared God, like, if you're going to make me leave my dream job at the time, you want me to go back to school? I'm apply to the best one in the world. And we like to say, well, if it doesn't work out, it wasn't your will. Man, don't test God, yeah. And that's how I got in to the number one school in sports management at the time. Still, actually, the Rackets got back up. They're there, had to move to Switzerland, had no money. So now I have another hurdle. So you think a door open, and when the door open, there's a hurdle waiting for you.
Always.
That's okay, because you're prepared for it. And you don't know what to do, you do what you know. And I've been very fortunate because of all of this to learn how to tell a story, to be articulate in my presentation, to be able to galvanize communities behind the belief that if you give me this chance, I'm going to open the door for as many people as possible.
Yeah, I love that.
First person from
Yeah.
Trinidad and Tobago in that program, only the third or fourth African or black person to be in it, to be able to be in Lausanne, Switzerland, which is like the Silicon Valley of sport,
Right.
to be in the atmosphere of the FIFA and the IOC and all of the international organizations who hide themselves within Switzerland. That was a blessing. And only the start of, again, a decision, as you said, revolutionary decision, where I could stay the course of where I am right now, or be willing to accept the risk of changing the direction, knowing that there's something that is pulling me this way.
I'm not mad at
And
that.
firefighting to me was a directional shift, because you can't run from who you're supposed to be.
No, you're right about that. You're right about that. Mikel, this is, I can't wait. And my revolutionaries know that I do the show not only as like the host, but also as a fan of the show. And so I can't wait to go back and listen to this to see how this fuels my own revolution. But I need to ask you this. Mikel Thomas, 3-time Olympian from the wonderful country of Trinidad and Tobago. What's your revolution?
To be able to awaken the champion within us all. Because if you realize that you're a winner, I reap your fruits.
That's beautiful, brother. Yeah. Mikel, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to speak with me and to talk with my revolutionaries about your journey. It is amazing to see where you are, where you've been, and where you're going, and how this revolution is going to transform not only yourself, your community, and what we've seen, your world and your country. We must say that. I know that your countrymen and women are very pleased with being able to say that Mikel Thomas has been a beacon of hope and life and championship for them, and that you have been a model of revolution for them. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And revolutionaries, we are here for you. I want you to go to whatsyourrevolution.com, check out all of the resources that we have. If you haven't figured out how to fulfill your revolution, we've got the opportunity for you right there on whatsyourrevolution.com. You can book time with me. You can go through the free booklet that we have for you, where you can begin to answer that question, and then we can help you fulfill it. So please reach out. We look forward to talking with you. We look forward to seeing you soon. And as we say here all the time, be able to answer what we think is the most thought-provoking question of your life. What's your revolution? We'll talk to you soon. Take care, everyone.